All right, everybody, what's going on? And welcome to another edition of Swag Talk. Of course, this is the show where we cover the swag inside and out, and I am your tour guide around the swag. C Wells coming at you. And we got our week 2 preview coming up today. Got a lot of games to cover, so man, we're gonna go ahead and get this on and get it in. Before we start, as usual, check out those socials. Facebook is Swag Talk, Instagram, Swag Talk, Twitter, Swag Talk 76. Still have Swag Talk shirts, man. If y'all want to cop one, hit me up on my socials. They're 1 for 25, 2 for 40. Get at me. I can hook you up. Cash App is Swag Talk, $ Swag Talk. If you want to show some love and support to the show, we're growing, and to keep growing, I would love to have some of your support. So thank you very much. Hit the subscription button if you haven't done so already. We are on the march to 1K, and we're getting there. So if you subscribed already, thank you. If you haven't, man, why don't you go ahead and do that and tell some other people to subscribe too. Let's get it going. Hit that notification bell to be alerted to any content that I upload, and like, share, and follow, and like, share, and comment, man. So you can let me know what you think about week 2. And let's go ahead and get in it, man. We're not gonna waste no time. Got a lot of games on the schedule. The first game I want to talk about is Texas Southern against North Texas. TSU comes into this game dropping a loss to Prairie View on Saturday. Did not really look good on either side of the ball. Offensively, they really struggled moving the football. Defensively, they could not stop Prairie View's ground attack. Prairie View ran for over 300 yards and, kind of had their way in that game. But, there's still hope for this team. The season is just getting started. They, got hit in the mouth early in this game. They did have a pick six for a touchdown, so that's a positive thing. But if they can get themselves going on offense and their defense can find a way to get some stops, this team can still be dangerous. The season is not over. We'll see how they do. They're facing a North Texas team that's 1-1 on the season. They come in after beating UTEP in week 0, 31-13, and they lost to SMU on Saturday, 48-10. So this is a team that's kind of all over the place. They've won, they've lost, they've scored some points, they've given up a lot of points. Let's take a little look quickly on at where they are statistically and what to expect from the Mean Green. They're averaging 20.5 points per game through 2 games, 30.5 allowed through 2 games. They are rushing for an average of they have 415 yards, 182 yards per game rushing. So they're a pretty solid running team. They're allowing 128 on the ground. They're allowing 359 through the air. So they are susceptible to the big play. They've allowed 5 touchdowns and no interceptions. So they haven't really, gotten any stops through the air. They are passing the ball for 228 yards per game, 3 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. Total offense, 410 yards per game. Defensively, 488. They have 5 touchdowns on the season. The opponents have 7. They've turned the ball over 4 times on the season, 2 fumbles, 2 interceptions, and they have recovered 3 fumbles on the season. So they're -1 in turnover ratio, so not bad, not good. They're 40% on third downs. They're allowing 45% third down conversions. They're 50% on 4th downs and 33% on 4th downs for the opponents. And they have 2 sacks on the season, and they've only given up 1 through 2 games. So they're protecting the quarterback pretty well, but they're not getting a lot of pressure at all. Individually, a couple guys to look out for this team. Oscar Attaway is the leading rusher. He's averaging 70 yards per game. He has 2 touchdowns, averaging 5.4 yards per carry. Ayo Adai is averaging 61 yards per game and 4.5 yards per carry. The team is averaging 4.1 yards per carry. So they're doing a really solid job with the run game. The leading passer is Austin Ayoun. He's 30 of 58, 422 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 211 yards per game, completing 51% of his passes. Receivers to look out for: Roderick Burns has 7 catches for 107 yards, 15.2 yards per catch, no touchdowns. Jake the Snake Roberts, 7 catches, 95 yards. He's averaging 13 and a half yards per catch and 1 touchdown. The leading tackler on the season right now is KD Davis with 15 tackles. Larry Nixon has 11, and Quinn Whitlock has 10 tackles for loss. Their top guy has 2 right now, and that's Tom Trebe. And they have a half a sack between 2 guys and no interceptions on the season. So this team is a team that obviously they're an FBS team, so they're gonna try to get out the TSU and try to excuse me, and try to get something going. Texas Southern, obviously the defense has to come to play. They have to tackle better. They have to, kind of get off the field. They allow Purview to go drive after drive. The receivers didn't really do a good job of catching the ball on Saturday. So those things have to really improve. And you have to give Andrew Body time to throw and open up some holes for Howard and Owens. You got to get the running game going. Isaiah Hamilton can be a factor in this game. He had 2 interceptions against Prairie View and a pick 6. So he can probably make some plays on defense. But it all starts and ends with this defense. If they can't be physical, then this is going to be a long game. I think TSU would look better, but I don't think the result will be better. Right now, I'm going North Texas 38, Texas Southern 14. I mean, TSU can probably score a few more points, but I just need that defense to really step up a bit more and kind of start to dictate the physicality of games. So until they do that, it's going to be really tough for them to pick up victories. Moving on to our next game, South Carolina State takes a trip to Daytona, Florida, to take on the Bethune-Cookman Wildcats. And Bethune-Cookman is coming off of a loss to Miami, 70-13. They did look good in spots, especially early. They went on a few drives early, and they made some things happen. But ultimately, they got worn down and really couldn't get anything going after a certain point. South Carolina State is obviously the team to beat in the MEAC, at least on paper at the beginning of the season. And they're coming off of an FBS game, too, against Central Florida. That was a game that they lost by a score of 56-10. So not a lot to really take away from either one of these games, and not a really lot to take away statistically from these games. You're kind of almost starting fresh, playing 2 teams who are playing against each other who have not played a FCS opponent, so you don't really know where these teams stand at. I expect South Carolina State to set the tempo and the pace in this game. With their defense and the physicality of their defense. A guy like Jablonski Green on the defensive line is definitely going to be a factor. You just really kind of expect South Carolina State to set the tone. Jalen Jones is obviously going to be the X factor for Bethune-Cookman in this game. If he can get the offense going, you have weapons in Averett. You have Quishon Bird and Jimmy Robinson. So you really have guys that can make some things happen. You're going to have to hope that defense can get some stops. South Carolina State did not move the ball at all against Central Florida. They only had 91 yards of total offense, so not much to take away from this game. But they have a guy like Corey Fields at quarterback. He's a guy who started last season, so he's gonna be there. They're gonna run the football. That they have a bevy of guys that can run the football, but that's what they want to do. And then you have a guy like Shaq Davis at wide receiver who is a true weapon. So you're gonna have to definitely account for him and see what they do. Guys like BJ Davis and Brandon Tucker, they both had big games against Central Florida, so you want to look out for them. 11 tackles for Davis, 9 for Tucker. They both had a tackle for a loss. Tucker had a sack and a forced fumble. Jablonski Green had a fumble return for 80 yards. So this defense they're gonna be a tone setter. That's what they do. So you really know what South Carolina State is going to give you. Bethune-Cookman is the wild card in this. This game last season was closer. I think the score was closer than the game was. I don't really think Bethune-Cookman that fell behind big time, but they made a comeback and got themselves back into their game. This season, I think it's going to be a tighter affair from the start. I just don't. I just think Bethune-Cookman is going to have some growing pains on both sides of the ball. I think South Carolina State, they're conditioned to play the way they play, and I think they're going to be the better team in this game. And I think they'll win this game by a score of 35-24. I can see this game being tight going into the fourth quarter. Maybe a late touchdown puts it away for the Bulldogs. But I like their chances. I'm not counting Bethune-Cookman out. I think if the offense can click, I think the defense can get a couple stops, and this can be a different game. Playing at home, you just never know. But that's where I stand right now. The next game we're going to talk about is Mississippi Valley. They continue their road trek. This time they go to Clarksville, Tennessee, to take on the Austin Peay Governors. Austin Peay comes into this game at 1-1. They beat Presbyterian last week 63-0, and they dropped a game against Western Kentucky that they were in almost to the end. They dropped their game by a score of 38-27. So this is a very dangerous team. You're not going to want to take them lightly. They obviously are a dangerous team. They're running for over 200 yards per game, and that's including against an FBS opponent, 232 yards per game. They're averaging 4.7 yards per carry. They're passing the ball for 231 per game, 7 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. So they're a balanced team. You really, you don't really know, what you're gonna get from them. They're gonna give you everything in both aspects. Defensively, they allow 98 yards per game on the ground, 2.9 yards per carry. They're allowing 203 yards per game in the passing game, 4 touchdowns and 1 interception. The guys who to keep a lookout for, Javon Jackson is the leading rusher at 167 yards per game. He's averaging 7 yards per carry. He has a touchdown. And also C.J. Evans is averaging 5.8 yards per carry with 2 touchdowns, 144 yards on the season. So they have 2 guys that definitely can tote the load. They don't mind spreading it around. Mike DeLilio is the quarterback. He's 32 of 47, 377 yards, 6 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and he's completing over 65% of his passes. So pretty accurate guy. They go to the air a lot, and he's pretty accurate. Dre McCray is the leading receiver with 14 catches for 203 yards, 14.5 yards per catch, 2 touchdowns. James Burns has 7 catches for 94 yards, 13.4 yards per catch, and a touchdown. And Trey Goodman has 6 catches for 71 yards and 2 touchdowns. So I think those are the 3 guys that are going to get the ball quite often. They're the only 3 guys who have more than 5 catches at this point. So they're your go-to guys. If you Valley want to keep an eye out on those guys at all times. Antoine Williams leads the team with 19 tackles. Josh Rudolph has 16. Those are the only 2 guys with double-digit tackles right now. Javon McCray has 2 tackles for loss on the season, and Antoine Williams has the only sack for the team. Interception, Shamari Simmons has that. So those are guys that you really want to keep an eye out on. Return game, James Burns has a 38-yard return on the season on a punt return. So if he's their main guy, you're gonna want to keep an eye out for that. Valley is you kind of know what you're gonna get from Valley. Valley is the kind of team, they want to run the football. They don't really throw deep on you, but they will, air it out to an extent, get the ball to their receivers in space and let them make some plays. This offense starts and goes with Caleb Johnson. So obviously he's going to carry the ball a lot, even though people know he's going to get the ball. Jacoby Thomas had a good game against Tarleton State as well. So that's a 2-headed monster. If they can keep those guys, feeding both of those guys, that's going to help the run game a lot. Valley ran for, I think, about 200 yards in the last game. Quarterback play. I think you need to start some, whether you got to rotate guys or start somebody else. Easton didn't have a good game against Tarleton State, and I think they kind of held this offense back a little bit. So I would love to see Shamari Jones get an opportunity to play. and see where you go. Defensively, this defense is still pretty solid. They're hitting hard and they're physical. So I think the defense could keep Valley in the game. I just don't know if the offense is going to be there. So I got Austin P winning this game by a score of 30-17. I think Valley is going to be game. I think they're going. I think they're going to fight and they're going to keep themselves in it. But I just don't see them pulling it out until they solve that offensive situation. Moving on to our next game, Alabama State heads to Pasadena to the Rose Bowl to take on UCLA. Not really going to spend a lot of time on this game. UCLA beat Bowling Green 45-17 in their season opener. Pretty solid game for them. They're an experienced team. They ran the ball fairly well in this game, over 200 yards on the night. Dorian Thompson-Robinson is the quarterback. He's a dual threat guy. He ran for 87 yards. Also, Zach Charbonnet ran the ball for 111 yards and 1 touchdown. Thompson-Robinson had 2 touchdowns. So they ran the ball really well, 6.6 yards per carry. Robinson threw the ball for 298 yards and 2 touchdowns. He did get sacked twice and had an interception, but he's a guy that's gonna challenge you with his legs. First and foremost, Casimir Allen had 10 catches for 85 yards, 53-yard catch and a touchdown. Josiah Norwood had 5 catches for 63 yards and a touchdown. I mean, it's not a lot to really put into this game. Bama State, I think their chances of any kind of success in this game, it starts and ends with if Demetrius Davis is going to play. He has a shoulder issue. I suspect they probably are going to hold him out of this game, and get him ready for swag play. Miles Crawley had a pretty solid game against Miles, but Bama State turned the ball over 6 times in that game. A game like this, you cannot turn the ball over at all. If you want to have any opportunity to put any points on the board, you cannot turn the ball over at all. They want to run the football. They have a 3-headed monster. Corey Merritt and Santo Dunn are 2 of the guys that they really want to get the ball in their hands. Isaiah Scott, Jeremiah Hickson are some of the receivers. Defensively, Ershaw Davis, Bubba Adams. They're a physical defense, but I feel like this defense is probably going to keep them in this game for a little while. But the lack of offensive production, if they don't have their key guy at quarterback, I think it's going to slow them down. So I'm going UCLA 56, Alabama State 9. I think they'll be able to put up a few points and get themselves in and out, and hopefully enjoy themselves in Pasadena and get ready for their next game. Speaking of moving on to your next game, Florida A&M hosts Albany State. FAMU, Sunday, they were atrocious. The work that they put in and showed against North Carolina, it did not travel to Miami. So I feel like they're back at square one. Jeremy Musa is their guy at quarterback. The running game must get going. Defensively, they have to get some stops. They have to get pressure. They did not get any pressure against Jackson State. They have to play better. It's no other way to say it. They have to play better. They have to show that last week was not them. They have to show that was an aberration and show that this team is, we are better than what we showed. Because otherwise, you're looking at. I don't really see them losing this game. But I can see if they don't play solid, this game can kind of build and fester into a kind of like a slump. So you don't really want to have that happen. So to not have that happen, you need to come out and set the tone early. I think the way FAMU plays in this game early is going to dictate how this game finishes. If the Rattlers come out strong and score a couple of touchdowns early and put this game away early, then they'll be good. If they kind of up and down, back and forth, not really giving up a lot of yardage, but not really doing anything offensively themselves, kind of slogging through, then I can see this game being a kind of a close affair for a little while. But I ultimately still think they'll win. Albany State's a tough opponent. They did beat Mississippi College last week, 28-14. This team is a physical team. They play defense well. They gave up 350 yards on the night in this game. They allowed one passing touchdown, 2 rushing touchdowns. They ran the ball. The Rams ran the ball for 322 yards in this game. They threw the ball for 64 yards and 2 interceptions. So they want to run the football. They averaged 7.2 yards per carry in this game. So you know that's what they want to do. They want to run the ball. They want to play some physical defense. Marcus Williams ran for 121 yards. He averaged 20.2 yards per carry. Big night for him. Cole Fagan, 74 yards. He averaged 4.9 yards per carry. Sam Wilder had 64 yards on the night. So they have a few guys who are going to carry the ball. Moore is the quarterback, so he's a guy who's going to run the ball as well. He had 39 yards. Sam Wilder was the leading receiver on the night. I think FAMU is going to take care of business in this game, but I just don't know if they allow last week to kind of fester, then I think that's going to slow them down. I think they'll have a little bit of a slow start. I think they'll win this game by a score of 38-13. Albany State's no pushover, so they're going to definitely challenge Florida A&M in a big way. But I think the Rattlers rebound and get themselves back on track and get ready for the rest of their season, because you have to put last week to bed. The sooner you do it, the better, and you can give yourself a chance. The next game that we have is a battle of two teams who did not look good last week. Who can have any kind of offense in this matchup? Is going to be the team that probably wins this game. Northwestern State and Grambling. They playing in Shreveport. Northwestern State got shut out by Montana 47-0 on Saturday. They could not run the football. They averaged 1.1 yard per carry, 36 yards and 33 carries. They lost 51 yards on the night. They threw the ball for 183 yards. They threw 2 interceptions on the night. They fumbled 4 times and lost 3, so they turned the ball over 5 times. A real sloppy game for them. They allowed Montana to run the ball for 211 yards, 5 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns, 253 yards through the air for the Grizzlies, 19-29, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. Montana did not turn the ball over in that game. Montana had 4 sacks on the night, so that Northwestern State couldn't protect the quarterback either. And they were also the Demons were also 4-16 on third down. So just a real tough night for them. Miles Phelan is the quarterback. He was 29-42 for 183 yards, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Like I said, he was sacked 4 times. Scooter Adams was the leading rusher. He had 33 yards on the night, 3 yards per carry. Kennard King was the leading receiver along with Javon Antonio. They both had 6 catches. King had 56 yards. Antonio, 43 yards. So those are kind of some of your guys you want to look out for. Race Moser was the leading tackler on the night with 10. PJ Harrington had 2 tackles for loss to lead the team. They're not a good team. So for Grambling, I think this is your opportunity. You really had a rough go of it at Arkansas State. This is the game that can kind of help you put some things behind you. Offensively, Grambling just could not get anything going. About 100 yards of total offense. That's just not going to – obviously, that's not going to get it done. That's kind of shades of last season. You have to find guys that are going to be able to make the plays for you. A guy like Chance Williams, who's a young kid, I like him a lot. He took advantage of some of the opportunities that he had, so maybe he can get some more playing time. Quarterback is gonna be the deciding factor. I don't know where they're gonna go. Nobody really looks sharp in the game. So this week in practice, somebody's gonna have to take hold of that job. They need to get that settled and quickly, because you're playing Jackson State next week. So you wanna know what you are coming out of this game. You don't want to have another bad offensive effort. Defensively, Gramblin's defense is solid. Um, they are a very, very good defense. They hit and they're physical. Lewis Matthews is a guy who is a tackling machine. He had 14 tackles against Arkansas State, so he's a guy that's definitely gonna be there. Sundiata Anderson is another guy on the defensive line to look out for Grambling. But Grambling's offense is gonna tell a tale in this game. I think Northwestern State, then they're not good. I mean, Montana's a playoff team, so maybe that's a different element for them. But I think they'll be fired up to play Grambling. Northwestern's always fired up to play an in-state school, but I think Grambling's offense to me has to show that they have it. So right now, because I'm so unsure with Grambling's offense, I do pick the G-men to win, but I think it's going to be a close game. I said 21-20. I just think the offense, if they don't move the ball, then they're going to end up giving Northwestern some short fields, and they'll be able to cash in a few points here. But I think Grambling will ultimately be able to find a way to win the game and move on to the game next week. Our next matchup is Alcorn at Tulane. Tulane defeated Massachusetts 42-10 last week. They look pretty good playing in this game. They ran the ball for 200 yards. They only threw they ran the ball for 196 yards. They threw the ball for 173, 5 yards per carry on the night. They threw 2 touchdowns. They did have 1 fumble loss. They had a real good defensive game, although they did give up 200 yards on the ground. So that's a good thing if you're Alcorn to know that they were susceptible to some big gains on the ground. So with the running game that Alcorn had last week, I think that definitely helps you. That helps you kind of find some things and get that running game going. I mean, Alcorn ran the ball pretty well against Stephen F. Austin, and I think that they'll be able to carry that over. I just don't know if they're going to be able to stay with Tulane for 4 quarters. We'll see. They had a pretty solid matchup last season in their FBS game, but Tulane, they ran a bunch of guys. They had nobody really go over 60 yards, but they had a bunch of people get carries. So they're gonna throw a lot of guys at you with the run game. Michael Pratt is the quarterback. He was 12 or 20 on the night, 164 yards, 2 touchdowns. The leading receiver was Jaquan Jackson. He had 1 catch for 34 yards. In terms of catches, Lawrence Keys had 4 catches on the night. Again, they spread the ball around through the air and on the ground. So this is a team that's they're gonna challenge Alcorn. I think Alcorn's gonna be a good team this season. I think they played a great game against Stephen F. Austin. Ultimately, at the end, they let it get away from them, but they did some things that I really liked. I think that they can, if they can find that consistency, Allen can get his accuracy up. He was 12 or 26 on the night. You want to, expect him to do a little bit better. He did have 1 interception. Jarvion Howard did a great job running the ball for Alcorn, 199 yards and a touchdown, including a 73-yarder. And you also have Nico Duffy. So that's a 2-headed monster that can help you in the run game. You got your guys like C.J. Bolar and Juan Anthony, and the McNair brothers at receiver. Defensively, Alcorn, has James Ellis and Cherilus Kinsler. Those guys are gonna they can make this happen. But at this point, I think Tulane is gonna have a bit much. This team seems like they are clicking a little bit, so we'll see how it goes. But I'm picking Tulane 41-21. I do think Alcorn's gonna step up to the plate. I think they're gonna challenge Tulane early. I think that this is going to be a physical game. Alcorn is kind of trying to round the corner and become that Alcorn that we know. It's still going to take a little while to get there, but I like their chances. I think they have an opportunity, and we'll see how it goes. The next game that we're going to talk about, and I'm not spending any time on this game really. North American is at UAPB to me, this game should be like the Southern Florida Memorial game. This should be a name your score for UAPB. Pine Bluff, though, they are a little bit they are inconsistent. They did not play well against Lane. They kind of allowed Lane to stay in this game, and it took a big game from Kayvon Britton to win this game for the Golden Lions. 237 yards on the night for him and 3 touchdowns. It took a career game for him to get them out of this. So they need to come out in this game and score early and often. The defense needs to make some plays. They need to get the stops, and they need to get this game over in the first quarter. I mean, I know you don't really like to say that a game you need to blow somebody out. It's not always easy to blow somebody out when you're trying, but this team needs to find a way to get in and get out. If they don't have their way with this team, I think Pine Bluff can have some problems. But I'm optimistic. I'm going 66-7. I think this is just one of those kind of name your score type of games, and they'll move on to the rest of their season. Southern is at LSU. LSU is coming into this game as a wounded tiger. They lost last week to Florida State. The city is kind of in an uproar. Coach Brian Kelly, lost his season opener in his first game at LSU, and they won't. They're gonna be hot and they're gonna be out for. They're going to be out for blood. I don't know. Southern, it's hard to gauge where Southern is playing a game like they played last week. They're not an 86 point per game team, and they're definitely not going to score that many points against LSU. But if this team can move the football and be successful in that, I think they have an opportunity to kind of, be successful in terms of making their way through this game and finding a way to make things happen. LSU is led by Jaden Daniels at quarterback, although I'm quite sure you'll see Nussmeier play a little bit as well. Daniels is a guy that can run the ball. He's going to tuck and run. He's not the most accurate guy, but he's going to definitely be a threat with his legs. I keep on saying Grambling. LSU is going to throw a lot of running backs at you. They have a lot of receivers. They have some good tight ends. Defensively, they're going to be down a couple guys. Mason Smith tore his ACL in the first quarter against Florida State, so he's out. And Ali Gay is suspended for the first half due to a targeting penalty against Florida State, so they're going to be down a couple guys. But this is going to be a physical defense. It's going to be hard to get things going. For me, Southern needs to clean up their penalties. They had way too many penalties against Florida Memorial, and they need to clean that up. And just like I always say, you approach these games, you play as best as you can in the first half and let the chips fall where they fall. But you have to come out with a winning mentality. I'm not saying you come in knowing you're going to beat LSU, but you need to come out and play hard and let the chips fall where they fall. But ultimately, I think you're facing an LSU team that's really going to be fired up, and they have to prove some things to some people in the stands. So I think they're going to come out and really get out the Southern and make it tough for the Jaguars. So I like LSU in this game by a score of 47-14. I think Southern will score an early touchdown and maybe a late touchdown. But the key is to get out of this game without injury, and get yourself ready for conference play next week. The next game that we have is Prairie View taking on Abilene Christian. The Panthers won their game against Texas Southern without any passing yardage. They ran the ball for over 300 yards. They had three runners over 100 yards apiece. Shazan Conley, the quarterback, went for over 100 yards. Ahmad Antoine and Jaden Stewart, the running backs, both went for over 100 yards. The defense played a really physical game. They kind of bullied Texas Southern. They never let them get any rhythm. So they had a really good game. 40 points scored. They did turn the ball over once. They also blocked the punt in that game. So a real solid first game for Coach McDowell to get the Panthers going. They're facing the Abilene Christian team that beat Lamar by a score of 28-14. They were tough on they were tough to run against last week, only allowing the Cardinals to run the ball for 68 yards on the night, 3 yards per carry. They ran the ball for 186 yards, 4.2 yards per carry, and 2 touchdowns. They also threw the ball for 258 yards, 22 of 39, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, allowing 272 yards of total offense. And they also had a fumble recovery. They gained 444 yards of total offense. So a really solid night for the Wildcats in this one. They're going to be a tough opponent for Prairie View. Maverick McIvor is the quarterback. He had a really good night, 258 yards, 2 touchdowns. Rovon Banks led the Wildcats for 69 yards rushing. Also, Anthony Smith ran for 65 yards and a touchdown. Kendall Calalon ran for 37 yards and a touchdown. So the running game was there. Calalon also ran the ball. Also caught over 100 yards on the night. So you're that's the guy that can make some things happen. This team is going to be tough. I think this should be a really good game. This is a game that'll let Prairie View know where they are at this point. Prairie View was kind of cruising under the radar in the preseason. A lot of people didn't know who they were or what they had. This was a solid game for them to come out on the night and come out and kind of set the pace for the season. To win this game, Prairie View is gonna have to get that passing attack going. I'm not saying you have to throw the ball for 300 yards and 8 touchdowns or nothing like that, but you will need to have a passing attack because unlike Texas Southern, Abilene Christian is not gonna just continue to allow you to run the football like they did. So you're gonna have to have some sort of balance, and that's ultimately gonna fall on a guy like Connolly, who even though he's a senior, he doesn't have a lot of on-field experience. So this is a big game for him, and how he handles this is going to be important. He did leave the game Saturday with cramping issues, but I'm quite sure he'll be ready to go in this game. But I've been using that word so much. But at the end of the day, I think I'm going to go with the Panthers. I think they'll find a way to win. They've been doing pretty well in these non-conference games against these Texas schools. They split last season, getting beat by Incarnate Word, but they beat Houston Baptist. So I think they can find a way to win this game. It's going to be close. I think it's going to be a last-second type of game. I like Prairie View in this one by a score of 27-24. I'm not ruling out Abilene Christian finding a way to win this game if they can control Prairie View's passing game, keeping them one-dimensional. I think they'll be successful. So Prairie View has to have some kind of success passing the ball. I know the weather kind of dictated the lack of passing attack, but they need to still show that they can do that to put themselves in position to win this game. But like I said, I'm going with the Panthers in this one. Our last game of the night is the biggest game of the week, and that's the Southern Heritage Classic. This is, I believe, probably the last of this matchup. Tennessee State, Jackson State. Tennessee State had a really good game against Eastern Washington. They went toe-to-toe with Eastern Washington on the road, on that red turf. They lost this game 36-29. They had a really solid affair. They had a better second half. They shut them down more in the second half than the first half, but they stayed in this game. Tennessee State ran for 290 yards on the night. They averaged 5.4 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns. They also threw the ball for 257 yards on the night. 17 of 27, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. They did allow 348 yards through the air, 29 of 46, 5 touchdowns and no interceptions, and 126 yards on the ground. So they allowed 474 yards, 6.1 yards per play. They gained 547 yards, 6.8 yards per play. They did fumble. Tennessee State fumbled 6 times. They lost 2. They recovered the 1 fumble that the Eagles had. 12 penalties for 95 yards was a big factor also for Tennessee State. That's gonna get you killed against Jackson State. Those turnovers and penalties, and the fact that you got gashed through the air, that doesn't bode well. But the fact that they ran the ball solidly, I think is a good thing. Draylon Ellis is a dual threat guy, so he can maybe challenge Jackson State's defense a bit. He threw for 257 yards. He ran the ball for 100. He ran the ball for 82 yards and 1 touchdown. He had a 41-yard run. Devon Starling is the all everything running back. He ran the ball for 207 yards and 1 touchdown. He also had a 43-yard run. So those are your weapons on the ground. Ellis was solid through the air. Not spectacular, but he had a good game through the air. Zach Dobson caught 5 catches for 132 yards and a touchdown. Cam Weiss caught 8 passes for 95 yards and a touchdown. So this offense has weapons. Starling also caught 3 passes. This is going to be a challenge for Jackson State. This game is going to be a challenge because it's going to be how they approach this game coming off of that thrashing of Florida A&M. If they cruise in here and think that they're going to cruise in and cruise out, they're going to have a tough time. If they come in laser focused like they did against FAMU, they should have I don't want to say a comfortable game, but I think they should win it going away. I think Coach Prime is going to keep his guys focused. This team has leaders that are going to keep guys focused, but you can never be sure with a team coming off of a huge win like that. Are they going to start slow the next time? But they played a really good game. Like I said, Shador was basically perfect in this game. Over 300 yards on the night, 29 of 33, 5 touchdowns. He completed passes to a bevy of guys. Dallas Daniels was one of the key guys. Shane Hooks also. Kevin Coleman, another guy that had a really good night. So you're gonna have those guys, and defensively they're just loaded all over the place. So they're gonna really put a lot of pressure on Tennessee State to find a way to consistently move the ball. I like Jackson State in this game. I think they may start a little slow, but I think they'll catch fire and take care of business in this game. If I score 42-21, I think it'll be a closer game at the half. I think they're going to pull this game away in the second half and win it going away that way. So that's going to do it for our week 2 preview. We are in the midst of trying to figure out some things with Swag Smoke as far as the scheduling goes. So there won't be an episode Thursday, but we're trying to experiment with Sundays. So we'll probably have a show on Sunday. Maybe Monday. We'll see. We're just kind of trying to move some things around and see where we're at. But we'll be back with Swag Talk on Sunday to recap all these games. So with that being said, I'm your tour guide, Sewell, stopping the bus. Y'all can hop out. Hope y'all had a good show. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't done so already. There's a button up here. Hit that subscription button and tell everybody else to hit it, man. We'll catch y'all on our next show, and I'll holler at y'all. Peace.